Bonjour! Welcome to Lesson 8. So this is our last lesson in Unit 2. So after the Lesson 8 quiz, we'll just be moving right into the Unit 2 test. However, this lesson does have, I'll call it a pretty beefy bite. There's a lot in this lesson. Ignore everything I just said. So, our new frame, this is the flag of Benin. It's a country in West Africa. In French, it's pronounced Benin. Like most other countries in West Africa that speak French, it was colonized by the French in the middle of last century, or earlier, but Benin specifically was colonized in the middle of the last century by France. They got their independence in 1960. Official language is French, but just like Cameroon, people speak a variety of different local West African languages, but the official language, the language of the government, is French. All right, so in this video, we are going to learn the conjugations for two verbs that you already know. You know the meanings of the verbs, you know what they mean in their infinitive form, you just don't know how to conjugate them. And they are sortir, sortir. Sortir means to go out. To go out. Now, anytime I teach you a verb in a video like this, that means it's an irregular verb, so that's why it's all written out here. And it's conjugated like this. Je sors, tu sors, il, elle, on sort, nous sortons, vous sortez, il, elle, sortent. Okay, so it is irregular, but it's not crazy, right? It's not as sort of different than the infinitive as être is, for example. So you can see if this verb were to have endings, if we were going to say the endings to this are, it would be, we would drop the IR, kind of, and add SST, ONS, easy, ENT. But we lose the initial, we would lose the T's in these. So it's irregular, it's not super crazy. ONS, easy, ENT are endings that you are really familiar with. They're the endings for ER verbs and RE verbs. This part is the weird part, SST. And then now that we know how to do the passé composé, when I give you new verbs, I'll also be giving you the past participle. So you may notice, Terrace, it looks like this past participle also has to agree with the subject, like aller. And you are correct, and we'll talk about it in a second. But you have probably noticed that the helping verb for sortir is also être, like aller. All right, next verb. It's conjugated very similarly. Partir. Partir means to leave. You can see we have a word with the same Latin root, depart, right, which means to leave. And it's conjugated very similarly. Je pars, tu pars, il, elle, on part, nous partons, vous partez, il, elle partent. I leave, you leave, he, she, one leaves, we leave, you all leave, they leave. Same endings. Once again, it's an irregular verb, so it's hard to call them endings, but the SST, ONS, easy, ENT. And then also the past participle. It's exactly what you'd think for an IR verb. You drop the IR and add I. But you can see it also has to agree with the subject, and the helping verb is être. We're going to talk a little bit about that at the end of this video. I'll tell you what's going on there. All right, and so there are a few different verbs in French that are conjugated to this pattern. So for the most part in French, even if verbs are irregular, they often follow a pattern, and that is the case with these verbs. So a verb that is conjugated like sortir and partir is dormir. Dormir means to sleep. And this Latin root shows up in English as well in the words dormitory, as in a dorm, the place you sleep at college. Also dormant, dormant. And it is conjugated very similar to the others. We've got that SST, ONS, easy, ENT, dors, 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 dormons, dormez. This should be ENT, dorm, ENT. I'm gonna fix that now. No, please. Just really quickly, because that is just not right. Dorm. There we go. But unlike sortir and partir, the helping verb for dormir is avoir. It's normal. Doesn't have to agree. All right. So let's talk about those helping verbs. So in French, sometimes the helping verb is être. Before now, you knew that aller uses être as the helping verb in the passé composé. Now you know two more verbs that use être as the helping verb in the passé composé, sortir and partir. So the reason these all use être, think about what they have in common. Think about what they mean. Aller means to go. Sortir means to go out. Partir means to leave. What do these all have in common if you had to make a guess? They all have movement in common, right? They're verbs of movement. Going, going, leaving. Those are all movement verbs. They imply that the subject is moving through space in some capacity. And that is generally the verbs that use être in the passé composé, but it's very specific, and we will talk about it in the rest of lesson 8. But for now, I just want you to note, aller, sortir, and partir all use être as the helping verb in the passé composé, which means that their past participles have to agree. So here are examples. Olivier est allé au cinéma. All right, our helping verb is être. Aller agrees with our subject. This is a masculine singular subject. This is the masculine singular version of the past participle. Then, Laure est sortie avec un copain. Okay, we've got être as our helping verb, which is correct. And then sortie, which is our past participle, agrees with Laure. Laure is a woman's name. It's like Lauren. So it is the singular feminine version, so we just add an E, singular and feminine. Then in our last example, Claire et Hélène ne sont pas parties à la campagne. Claire and Helen are not leaving to the country. We can see sont, that's how you conjugate être for elle, plural, which is what Claire et Hélène are. And then our past participle agrees with Claire et Hélène. It's plural and feminine, so we add an E and an S. So your takeaway here is if the helping verb is être, the past participle has to agree in number and gender with the subject. And so far, the only verbs you know that have être as the helping verb are aller, sortir, and partir. I will teach you the rest of the verbs that use être in the passé composé in the next video. So that's it for now. Let's take a look at your practice. It's just practicing using those 3 new verbs in in context. Okay, so you're not worrying about passé composé for this. You're using the present tense. Okay, so you have to say whether or not they are doing the thing in parentheses. So you have to understand from the context of the sentence, yes or no, are they doing the thing? So, for example, our verb for the first 3 here is sortir. So our first one, ce soir, nous étudions. Tonight we are studying. Okay, if they're studying, are they going to go out? No. So you would make this a negative sentence, ne, conjugate sortir for nous, and then pas. Nous ne sortons pas. That's it. You're just conjugating them in the present tense and determining whether or not, based on the first sentence, if it should be affirmative or negative in the second sentence. Let me know if you have any questions. This shouldn't be too hard for you. There will be a key at the bottom so you can check, but I'm not that worried. I think you all got this. Okay, au revoir.